You're listening to
Wrestling to the Max.
Alert. Clear all channels.
This is an exclusive
Pay-per-view review.
How you like that?
And your hosts, Gary Vaughn, Sean Garmer, and Paul Leeser.
Hello and welcome to the Wrestling Max special number 7. And if you don't know what that intro is, we are reviewing ROH's Best in the World 2015 today.
That's right.
What's going on, guys?
Oh, man, we are excited about talking ROH, and I cannot wait about it's just been a fun time getting a chance to check out that show. I know you guys are excited about talking about it. Plus, everybody, we do have a special topic we're going to jump into. We're also going to talk some Bret Hart. He recently did a Sports Illustrated article, kind of, interview, and the interview was very interesting. He had a lot of comments, a lot of personal opinions of his come out that I think a lot of people will have some discussion, maybe some debates about. So we want to cover that as well. But, man, primarily this is an ROH show for all you ROH fans. And, of course, maybe some of you guys that have never listened to us, or even the ones that, hey, maybe you just want to learn more about ROH. That's all good and fun. So we are here and ready to rock and roll. Just want to say this also, technically, right now, is Father's Day. So we want to publicly wish everybody a happy Father's Day. We hope your day was awesome. Of course, me and Sean are fathers, and we had a great day. I know I got a chance to see Sean on his Facebook page talk about his awesome gift that he got. I mean, Sean, it's really cool to see your daughter's growing up. She knew right what to get you, man.
That amazes me. I don't know how that happened. I think she just saw it, and my mom was sitting there going, and wife was sitting there going like, what? Okay, if you say so. And my mom goes, yeah, Anaya got you this stupid thing. And she pulls out a Pikachu amiibo, and I was like, that's really not stupid, but now you're now going to have to sit here and spend $13 more than I wanted to. Because now I feel like I have to start actually collecting them, and I didn't want to at all. So it's one of those things I would just stare at and go, well, if they ever come out with a reason to actually buy these things, okay. Like, the Disney Infinity ones. But, okay, whatever.
It's one of those awesome gifts. I can't lie. I've done this to my dad in the past, Father's Day or birthday, where I bought him something that I liked as well, so I could enjoy it just as much as he did. I remember back in the day buying a sports video. I think it was the Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl video. I bought it for him, and I thought, he's going to love this because he had the other two. And, of course, he's like, oh, I know why you got this, because you want to watch it. And it was true. So I think that's what your daughter's doing. She wants to, to enjoy it as well, Sean.
She does like Pikachu, so I'm sure there was a little bit of her in there, too. I agree.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's how me and my dad shop it for each other since I became, 12, so...
That's great. See, if you got that common, love of different things, that's awesome. That kind of helps out with the gift giving, especially. So, Paul, I'm sure your day was pretty cool. You probably got to spend it with your dad, or at least celebrate maybe today. And one of these days, Paul's going to be in our shoes, and it's going to be fun for him. But I'm sure Paul's not hoping for that very soon.
Seeing as I have a mountain of debt, no.
But trust me, it'll never end as soon as you have one of the kids. So.
Right.
That's great, man. Well, you know what? We've had fun talking, but I know we are all excited about talking about this Best of the World pay-per-view, and, why hold it off any longer? So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to be right back, and Paul is going to break down the card for us. All right,
Gary
Paul.
would catch me right when I'm like trying to put the thing on Twitter that we're doing this right now. Like,
That's the best thing about this. I just get to, host, go through the segments and all that, and Sean gets to be the button guy that, oh no, crap, I got to push the other button.
that didn't wind up good. Was it on Thursday or the Money in the Bank one? There was like literally 15 seconds of silence as I'm sitting there trying to fumble through the.
See, and what people don't realize is we do this show live sometimes. If you're listening on demand, you don't get to understand. We're doing this live, and people are able to call in, people are able to chat, and not only does Sean get to produce this show, engineer it, go play all the spots, but he also gets to chat with listeners, and me and Paul can do the same, but it's just the fact that they kind of bug Sean sometimes, which is great. We love it. But sometimes he gets into conversation, oh, wait, I got to push this button. So it's a whole process. But anyway, enough about behind the curtain, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about this show. Paul, go ahead.
Yeah, and Ring of Honor wastes no time in jumping into the action right off the bat. Mark Briscoe opens against Donovan Dijak. Match goes about 9 minutes. Briscoe's got ODB in tow with him, which is a rare treat. And Dijak, of course, is packing Truth Martini. And this match sort of went down how we all thought it was going to go when we talked about it during the preview show last Sunday when we did Money in the Bank. That was when it was. It was very much a sort of showcase for Dijak, even though he came up short, losing to Mark Briscoe's froggy elbow drop.
Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, exactly right. And that was kind of interesting to see that, they let Dijak look really good in this, I thought. I thought that he had a lot of, he had a lot more oomph than I thought he was going to have in this. I really felt like Mark Briscoe was going to take this and control, I would say, about 60 to 75% of it. But I think Dijak had a good showing. I think Mark Briscoe allowed him to throw him around a lot. I love that. Outside the ropes, he threw him through the ropes and over the ropes. And the ODB that you mentioned, that I think that's great to also have her right there and to be part of this. It's kind of, I don't know why, but she just kind of adds flavor to the Briscoes because of the fact, she very much is that whole gimmick of, Southern, kind of trashy, kind of thing, and opening the flask up while they're having the match. And the whole thing is so fun. But in general, this match was not bad. I don't think it was a bad way to open the show. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I think, Mark Briscoe, once again, proving that, he's just the guy. I can't say enough about this guy. I love his promos. I love everything about Mark Briscoe. So glad he went over. And of course, he just had a baby. So that's really cool too. We're talking about Father's Day. This guy is just now a father.
Yes, that's always a really cool thing when you can go on a national, global pay-per-view and have Kevin Kelly announce that you are a brand new father. That's pretty awesome. Great way to pretty much like almost he got to spend his first Father's Day having said he won a match for, I agree with Paul. This was kind of a showcase match for Dijak. I mean, what Mark's going to do. It was fun. It was not overly long. Mark got to win, which you kind of expected. And Truth Martini does his little parts here and there. It was good for what it was. I mean, it wasn't anything like, the best opener ever or anything like that, but it served its purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it was just good enough, because there are enough spots in here that get you going. Like Dijak body slamming Mark Briscoe over the top rope to the outside and watching Mark bounce. That'll grab your attention in a heartbeat.
I love the playback that they gave it. It was awesome.
Yeah. It was also, I believe, the first of many times that Steve Corino screams and loses his mind during the show over at the booth, too. So,
yeah.
Another thing I also need to mention, ODB tears the Book of Truth in half, which we'll actually see sort of play into things later on in the evening.
Yeah, that's interesting, though, Paul. I mean, I guess, and I've been watching ROH for a while now with you guys, and, this is pretty much the first year I've been really focusing on Ring of Honor. And the Book of Truth, I know, is a lot of value, but give me the thought process or the actual gimmick here. How long has this Book of Truth been around? I know that they've had it for quite a while now.
Yeah, so Truth Martini originally came in with his tag team, Christian Abel, and I'm forgetting the name of the other guy. They were the original House of Truth, and Truth Martini's he's a motivational guy. So his book, the Book of Truth, is his motivational strategies for prepping people to be successful, and that's the whole game. And it's just this massive tome that is pretty much just blank pages. And he hits people with it.
I've seen the pages before, and I didn't understand it because I didn't get it exactly, but I thought it was funny. I thought it was just one book that he's had for a long time. And I guess is this the death of it? I guess, or is this something he can bring back?
No, I mean we see it.
We see it again. I don't
like Paul says, it comes into play later. I mean that's cool, and ODB can now say she, led to the death of the original Book of Truth, or what,
Yeah.
whatever.
I mean, it certainly was cool because ODB obviously is not a small lady, and she does a fairly decent job of tearing that book up. So
yeah.
they've also used the book before in storylines before. Back when Roderick Strong was running around with Truth Martini, Christopher Daniel stole it so he could figure out, get into their head sort of how to figure out their strategies and all that stuff too.
Yeah,
which never played out because Roderick Strong ended up losing the belt before he ever fought Christopher Daniel. So,
what do you think about Dijak in this role? We saw him got to dominate. We got to see him look good. Do you think that we are seeing the beginning of maybe something here? I know Mark Briscoe had to go over. That's a duh. But I mean, I'm just saying, do we feel like that this guy is going to start going on a roll here, or do we kind of feel like that he's kind of playing this strong man, but not going to really do much role?
I think Larry is sort of spot on with him right now in his written review over at 411 for the show. Dijak has the look. He's big, but he still needs some work in the ring. There's some spots where are just some portions of his in-ring stuff that just isn't exciting. I mean, he's big man. He could toss you around, but that's really about the extent that he goes. And it's not like he's a moose who just is this insane athlete or Michael Elgin, who is just ridiculously strong and plays that into everything he does. It's just sort of a flat big guy right now who still needs some time.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Elgin is also really good at being a dick, which that's
right.
Just
he oozes that.
Yeah, exactly. So and to piggyback what Paul was saying, what also helps is you don't notice it that much because Mark is so good at playing the face, and he covers that up a lot because Mark can bounce around and you care about what's happening to him, so you don't really notice the boring parts or the parts where he should be doing something but he's not, so yeah, that's why you always talk about you're as good as you are, you're just as good as the person you're in the ring with.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, plus Mark, has no problem tossing his body around like a freaking human lawn dart, so...
Yeah.
That's true. It is.
So we move on. Our next match, tag team action. ACH teams with Matt Sydal to take on the Decade of Adam Page and BJ Whitmer, who of course have Colby Carino with them. New York hates BJ Whitmer and will just not get off hating on him throughout the entire match. It's wonderful. Colby Carino doesn't really get to do a whole lot during this one, but there's still some talk here and there. It's a fun match. I don't think it was as good as the opener, but it serves a purpose, I think.
Yeah, it furthers their feud, obviously. We've seen Sydal and ACH kind of get the better of them sometimes, or at least make it to the point where, Whitmer has to leave and kind of leaves Carino high and dry or whatever. And, I mean, this wasn't anything, like, totally spectacular. Once again, seeing ACH do that freaking dive is ridiculous every time you see it. But I think we've seen them tag and have better matches, but I just think that this was kind of okay. What you're gonna remember the most is the "Fu Whitmer" chants. I think.
Yeah. We always talk about during pay-per-views and stuff, especially during WWE, how we always say, oh, that was a Raw match on a pay-per-view. Why did they do that? And this is not, this is similar.
This
it's not
is
the
like
same
an
thing.
ROH TV match. You can
Exactly.
see this on it.
You're exactly right, Sean. It's very similar to that. And I think that, you could have put this in any ROH TV show and it'd been fine. This was okay. You need a match like this sometimes in a pay-per-view. I mean, we always talk about cool-down matches. I did enjoy this match. I mean, Seidel, this guy is flippy crazy. He's awesome. I mean, at time, I really felt like okay, these guys should be called Team ADD. I mean, they are everywhere all the time. They can't stay out of the air. They can't stay on the ground. They're everywhere you can think of. Whitmer in this match, once again, this guy is a great heel. I every time I see him, I think it's wonderful because I'm starting to really not like this guy, and that shows a lot. This whole process that we're getting into, it's a whole story. It's a whole thing. It didn't need to be the best match on the card. It didn't need to be, anything super amazing. It just needed to tell the story. They told the story, as hard as ACH and Seidel worked, they still couldn't overcome Whitmer and Page. And there you go. The story continues, and I'm okay with that.
And you got to see the whole Page not wanting to wrestle ACH for a while, and he takes advantage of him when he's down. The typical heel stuff in the tag matches when you have a feud with the guy. But, it's not done all the time. There's many times where you're having a feud with a guy and they act like, okay, no big deal. We're just going to wrestle. I'm not worried about, this guy I'm in a feud with at all. And nice to see that they paid attention to that. Like, Paige literally just did not want to be in the ring at the same time with ACH while he was vertical.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like anything was settled really between ACH and Page because Page pins Seidel to get the victory for the TF for the decade.
That thing continues.
Yeah, so I assume we'll see something to Adam Page versus ACH extent at Death Before Dishonor, which they announce at the end of this show. But they also announced that Kushida, Okada, and Nakamura from New Japan will be coming back in August, August 21st and 22nd at Philly and Brooklyn, if I remember correctly. So. Jealous already over here.
Yeah,
and then we go back to singles action. Dalton Castle takes on the last real man of pro wrestling, Silas Young, and I really enjoyed this match a lot. Dalton Castle gets the surprising victory because I picked Silas Young to pick up the victory here, but I think ROH and not just the fans too, but ROH in the back I think is really high on Dalton Castle.
Yeah, I think he was like their leading guy out of the prospect tournament or whatever they said. So, that's already... I don't know, it's so weird. Like, every time I hear Kevin Kelly talk about that, it seems like he's talking about a different guy every time. I'm just like, okay, so which story is it there, Kevin Kelly? Because I could have swore you said that about Will Ferrara. I could have swore they said that about Donovan Dijak. So, I don't know. But Kevin Kelly needs to get his story straight. Regardless, Dalton Castle is tremendous. I thought Silas Young would win because I didn't know they were going to continue this feud, and apparently it looks like they are, which I'm totally fine with because you have like total opposites and it just works. Dalton Castle is the pure antithesis of what Silas Young is. I love the whole, like, they were fanning Silas Young so he would fall down when he had been mooned by Dalton Castle. That was great. He pulled his tights down like twice. Just everything, like Dalton Castle coming out to a knockoff of Queen's I Want It All, and it just fitting him so perfectly, with the majesty and everything that comes with him, and even down to the way he wins. Like Silas Young does the low blow, and then Dalton Castle's like, okay, well, the referee's not paying attention. Low blow to you too, and I'm gonna win with that. By the way, it's just great stuff. And then of course one of the boys got to eat the airplane TKO. Poor guy.
Yeah. One of the ROH young boys, right? You know what? This was cool. I was really looking forward to seeing this because it was a match made in Hollywood. Tom Selleck versus Richard Simmons. And it was perfect. And we talked about this last week, how excited I was to see this. And, the reason I make those references is because, as you see, Dalton Castle, he's just the prancer. He makes everything just all frilly. He's fun. He's just really, strutting his stuff. And then, of course, you got this serious Silas, this guy that really is not in the mood for any of it. He's a man's man. I mean, you can't get any more manly. And so I love the very big dynamic here. These guys really are yin and yang, looking at them. And so that was what's fun about this whole process. You get to see the variations of their styles of wrestling. Dalton Castle gets to kind of, basically, hop around the ring, kind of trying to get.
Dalton Castle can wrestle, though. I mean, he was doing some big time moves in there. That's what I appreciate. It's not Adam Rose. Let me do some really borderline homosexual stuff. Like Dalton Castle's in there, he's wrestling, and the other stuff is for show, and it fits his character, and it's great. But you take him seriously when he's in there.
You're exactly right. But the reason why is because, like you said, Sean, he's great when he does get down to business, but he doesn't stay away from the prancing, from the dodging the big guy when he comes after him, any of that kind of stuff. He gives it a chance. He sells his frilliness and, basically kind of playing that, frilly character. So overall, I mean, I'm a big fan of Dalton Castle. Even from the first time I saw him, the guy just has so much ability. And of course, beating Silas Young, I think this guy, is great and all, but I love the finish here. I think it's the best way to do it. We did say Silas was going to win, but in the end, this makes a lot of sense. I mean, to me, it's perfect because we're going to get the continuation of it. That's what I'm happy about. It's not a one and done thing.
Yeah. I just want Silas Young to come out to Steven Regal's music one time.
Yeah, I mean, this is really a match that's built around starting up a feud. And the finish sort of lays, as Silas Young, as has been said, lays out one of Dalton's boys and all that good stuff. So, we'll see this hopefully play out some more before we get anything else. Maybe a Death Before Dishonor too. So, next we move on to something that I don't know really had a giant place on the show, but until you see stuff later. But Caprice Coleman, Cedric Alexander, sort of getting the band back together in the CNC Wrestle Factory to take on War Machine, and they just get murdered in about 4 minutes. Caprice Coleman and Alexander have trouble working together, seeing as Cedric is sort of on this heel turn, and it was not a good day for these two.
I like the fact that they did just enough to make you think. It's like anybody that knows wrestling knows it's coming, right? But they didn't just go ahead and have him take out Caprice Coleman right there. He had him wait, told him it's over, and then you wait till what you get later when it's more impactful and it makes more sense, considering what happened on the last week of TV. So I enjoyed it for what it was, but it was really it was an angle more than a match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right, and it wasn't about the match at all. It happened, but it really was about the story and basically the continuation of the heel turn. So I think it did what its job was. We weren't meant to get a great match out of this, but once again, War Machine gets a victory, and everybody loves that.
Yeah, you couldn't tell in New York, who just seemed totally mild about this whole situation, but to each his own, I guess.
Guess they don't like Vikings.
Yeah, I guess not. So we move on. Triple threat action to determine the world title, the number one contender to the ROH world title. Roderick Strong takes on Moose and Michael Elgin. This is a pretty gosh darn good match, if I say so myself. I think Moose was a little off his game, but I think Roddy and Elgin more than made up for it throughout the evening, outside of one spot that Elgin sort of goose on with that double stomp there. But Roddy comes away pinning Moose out of everybody with a sick kick. lots of spots everywhere, superplexes. It was a fun match, and Moose's dive to the outside too. I can't forget that. That was really cool.
Yeah, the springboard dive was cool. I like that. It was funny because, Elgin weighs just as much as Moose or more, and it seemed like it was nothing for him to lift Elgin and give him a superplex, but then it took him a little while for Moose. I thought that was kind of funny. The crowd chanting "You effed up" at Elgin as he misses the double stomp, and then he still doesn't really get it that great on the second try either. So he just gives him the big cut sign, as in like, well, screw you. Just this was really good. I really liked it. They worked it in a different, much better style than I thought they would. Because at first I thought they were going to do the whole, oh, well, I'll throw you out. These two guys go at it, whatever. They really tried to make it the three guys in there. So I appreciated that. And then you got what you get after the match too.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The match was great. I really enjoyed it. And, of course, I really am a big fan of Moose. I was really hoping that he was going to do more. I mean, he did fine for what he did, but I just thought he was going to be maybe even the guy that went over here. Elegant also was right there. I was a little bit, for me personally, surprised Roderick Strong won. Not because he's not worthy of it, but just because I thought maybe they were going to go in a different direction with the number one contendership. But overall, Roderick Strong proved a point that he's still in it and still great, and so there you go.
I think once you had Moose lose last week, though, it kind of made it a little bit more apparent that he's going to be involved in that feud, so he might not win here. And then we knew Elgin wasn't winning because he's not going to be around for a month.
That's right. We did talk about that, and I guess I just slipped my mind a little bit watching this show. I'd kind of forgotten the fact that he was going to be in Japan for a little bit. So, but I with the Moose losing thing, that you're right, Sean. That does make sense. But I don't know. I just keep thinking this kid is going to get pushed to the moon, and I that's me personally, and he's not per se. I think I have a lot of high hopes for Moose.
But see, that's what's good about him, though. Is I think he probably has more mileage to go as a face. So ROH is kind of doing it a little bit early, maybe. Mm-hmm. Maybe not. They're not, like WWE would wait until like Bryan, where the entire crowd is like telling you, okay, I'm cheering for Moose. You still have parts of the crowd that are chanting Moose sucks or whatever. Now you don't know if that's people just being assholes and wanting to chant Moose sucks, or they literally feel that way, but they're kind of tipping their hand early and hoping that this feud where they're kind of stacking odds against Moose kind of works and does the rest of it, for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah. It just makes a lot of sense, though, for Roderick Strong, too, on the aspect of he's the veteran. He's the guy that's been here for quite a while. Moose is still young in this game, and there's no reason to rush him into that big title picture. So,
right. This stuff they've been talking about post-match. Moose shakes hands with Strong, which Veda Scott is vehemently against and ends up slapping Moose around a couple times. She calls him a loser, bada bada bada. Moose is getting ready to spear her. Out comes Cedric Alexander, knocks out both Stokely Hathaway and Moose with a wrench. Gives it to Veda, so they're going to be a good heel team, I think, too, because Cedric really heals it up afterwards. I think pretty well. Veda, I think, is sort of hit or miss on the microphone, but she's not bad to look at. So there's that.
Yeah.
And then Strong will get his title match at Death Before Dishonor, July 24th on iPay-per-view.
Yeah, plus it just keeps going on with his awesome 2015 that he's been having.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's not just Ring of Honor, too. He's the PWG World Champion right now. He's been having this awesome feud and Evolve with Drew Galloway. The man can do no wrong this year so far, so that's good for him. So we go from a solid triple threat to what is going to be insanity in a six-man tag as the Kingdom, Adam Cole, Michael Bennett, Matt Taven, with Maria, of course, team up to take on the Bullet Club, AJ Styles, and the Young Bucks. And just sort of right out the gate, they don't even waste time. It's just they turn it up to 2,000% speed, and they pretty much murder each other for about 15 minutes before AJ ends up getting the win, putting Cole away with it's not more bang for your buck. It's a triple team. Triple team Taker into a Styles Clash, and that gets them the victory.
So before I say anything, I want what's the suck it report from Gary on this one?
Not as terrible as usual. The suck it wasn't too overly done. I just, in the past, it's suck it, suck it, suck it. This time it's more like suck it, give it a minute, suck it, give it a minute, suck it. So it's not so bad, and the high
it's terrible.
and the high pitch wasn't so awful because I didn't hear the suck it. That wasn't, I didn't hear that so much. So I was okay with this one, actually. Young Bucks didn't get on my nerves this time.
If you've never listened to our New Japan reviews, Gary always has to if there's a Young Bucks or Nick Jackson match or something, Gary prides it on himself to tell you that there's too much suck it going on. So I figured that I should find that out before we started on this.
I need to start a rating system or some kind of suck it system, where we kind of rate this. Now, that was
7 suck-its out of 10 or something? I mean,
yeah. Oh, that suck-it was about an 8, or that was about a 2, We'll come up with that. We'll figure it out one of these days.
Yeah, this was, I still haven't watched their World of Worlds Night 2 match to see if this probably is equal to, if not better. But, yeah, this was just crazy. I mean, super kicks everywhere from everyone. Even Maria gets one. Adam Cole did a tremendous job, mostly by himself a lot of the time, which was part of the story, obviously, is that, he winds up taking the fall, so the Kingdom are kind of upset at him or whatever, but, Adam Cole looked really good in here. He's still kind of coming back from that injury, and at times it almost looked like he could win it by himself. So, shows you, that guy is still all the greatness that he was and still is. And, AJ was doing his stuff. It was more really about, I thought the Young Bucks and Adam Cole than it was that much about AJ or the Kingdom for that matter. And of course Maria was just totally she kept getting involved and then ate another triple super kick, which is never terrible because it's always Carino going, "Oh my gosh, she's pregnant," and Kevin Kelly's like, "Oh my God, shut up with that."
No, she's not.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, you're right, Sean. And this was very interesting because of the fact that, the guy, AJ Styles, the one that we thought was going to be the rock star of this match, or at least me, I did personally. I kind of thought they were going to showcase him, showcase Adam Cole. I thought the Young Bucks were going to be a nice compliment. But actually, they kind of had AJ be the compliment to the Young Bucks, and which is fine. I think it's great because, they're all entertaining. And in general, the main point was Adam Cole being the guy that kind of made it the nice appearance to be back, get his stuff in, and for everybody to think, man, this guy has not lost a step at all. Great job doing that as well. But in the end, the right team went over. I chose the Kingdom, I believe, if I can remember right, last Sunday night when we talked during their preview. Just because I kind of felt like, maybe they could find a way to pin the Young Bucks just for the win. But this is okay. The Bullet Club winning, not a bad way to go. And so, just a great match. It was fun. I enjoyed it.
Some of the double indie taker was ridiculous. Just, and the finish was. You need to go watch that finish. It's really just. I didn't think they were gonna do that. That's just really awesome.
This is one of those matches, like plenty of matches we talk about. This is especially one of those matches you really need to watch. You can't hear us talk about it, get what you need out of it. You really got to go check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think the run-up to the finish was even better because they gave Cole 3 minutes where he just looked like a freaking rock star in there and just totally nailed everything perfectly. And it really made you think that he was about to pull it out for his team by himself because Bennett and Taven had been dealt with before he pretty much got murdered because nobody's kicking out of a triple team indie taker into a Styles Clash. That's just not happening.
Yeah.
And even Maria got to super kick somebody. So everybody threw at least one super kick in the match, and that's a lot of super kicks.
Really, seriously.
I love for ROH and New Japan to keep a super kick counter at the bottom left corner during Young Buck matches, but
Yeah.
it's a fever dream. I feel.
or like Carino should do that by himself, especially like every time he does it. It's like super kick.
Yeah, that would get in the way of him having a stroke every time he sees a super kick.
Ain't no party like a super kick party.
It's true. It's true. So we go from the insanity of six-man tag to the sort of more hard-hitting ROH tag team title match that featured no DQ rules as the Addiction defended the titles against the former champions and Red Dragon. They don't even shake hands. Red Dragon are pissed, rightly so, as they've been beaten pillar to post throughout this whole feud, and there's some fun spots in here. Although overall, I didn't really feel like this delivered as much as I thought it was going to. But what did you guys think?
That was really the same thought I had. That I was expecting a little more, and there was just something about it that. Not to mention Chris Sabin looked stupid with the short haircut, but it just didn't even look like the same guy almost. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
He don't, but I don't know. He doesn't look so girly.
The hair always, that's like the only way I've ever seen him, I guess. So the hair, it was just like one of those, I think kind of like when Triple H cut his hair. It's like, whoa,
Yeah, there's just a difference in face, though, because Triple H with the hair, but I don't know. Something about the way he looks, though, with that hair, it just kind of, I don't know. To me, it made him look kind of, I don't want to say weak, but it made him look more, maybe feminine. Maybe that's the right word. I don't know.
I like how we always go on a tangent about clothes or hair or something weird. But, anyway, the match itself, they got with lots of things going, weapons, and this was your hardcore match of the evening, I guess you could pretty much call it. And I don't know, I'm blanking on a lot of the spots right now, but it was good. I just felt like there was something missing.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that too. I mean, for what it was worth, it was okay. But you're right, Sean. There is something missing. It's like getting a Coke and then tasting it and it's flat. And you're like, dang it, I was really wanting something, really good, and it's not. And I think that overall they got their point across. And I like the fact the Addiction won, only because of the fact that these guys are great heels. We get a chance to see them continue on. It wasn't, hey, we beat you, now we're going to lose them. And the titles are flip-flopping. I'm not a big fan of the flip-flopping title. So I'm okay with this. I mean, but in general, you're completely right. It was just not everything we expected. I mean, but, hardcore matches, as this was, it is what it is.
It's just one of those, I agree with you on the whole, the Addiction, and then the way they did it, where Chris Sabin hadn't been involved at all in the lead up, and then he just shows up randomly, and they made a big deal about that. Well, he wasn't booked. Well, of course not. He's just going to show up there and do something, and I think the one that said is the Daniel's doing the BME right into the armbar. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I'm blanking on a lot of the other stuff for some reason.
The Addiction also do a double power bomb to Bobby Fish onto a piece of barricade that's laid out across two chairs. They get a ladder involved and they do some stuff with that. There's also this sweet spot, O'Reilly doing that running drop kick to both Daniels and Kazarian while they're sitting in the chair. I thought was neat. And then Daniels doing that reverse STO or whatever he did to O'Reilly, just killing that chair that he nailed him on was really cool too. But it took a while to get going, and then the fans weren't really into it either, and it just
has
didn't
to do with the match before it.
Yeah,
taking
maybe.
a lot
I
of
mean, because that certainly was the hottest match of the night before we get to the main event. So they might have been tired from that, but there wasn't anything overly like, they didn't draw you in. They just sort of punched you in the mouth right from the get-go and just sort of floundered about until maybe the last 5 to 7 minutes or so. That's just me personally.
No,
Yeah.
I think you're completely right on that.
We kind of have all the same idea here.
Mm-hmm. No, but I mean, think about this though, guys. Really, be honest with you. When you got what teams in the ring, you got the Young Bucks. They are attention hogs anyway. They get as much attention on them. They deserve it. They earn it. Whereas these tag teams we're talking about, we're in the Addiction. They are a great tag team, but on the other hand, they're not exactly pulling the crowd in, like really getting them excited. You know, they're not really known for that. They're known for doing great heel things, and really, Red Dragon is great if they're hot, but right now they're not really on a hot streak. So I think it kind of
plus Red Dragon are kind of like bordering that line on. They're a face team because they're going against the Addiction, but they're really not necessarily like a face team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still that whole you're rooting for them because they're ROH standards, and they're going against the team that you're supposed to hate. And they don't necessarily hate the Addiction either. So, because they're the two veteran guys. So it's just, it goes back to that same point. That I think a lot of it was the match before it, they were totally amped for that match. I mean, the moment that they put up AJ Young Bucks against the Kingdom, like, you could hear the crowd just explode, and then there's going to be a little bit of letdown in the next match because just no matter what they did, they had a good idea of like, let's start it with a punch in the mouth or whatever, but it just the crowd itself was still coming back from that, and they kind of had this, like Paul said, a lot of meandering parts to it.
Mm-hmm. It's just hard for me not to really get excited about a Kyle O'Reilly match right now because the guy has been on fire.
Right.
So
I mean,
it's hard for me to be like, oh man, I don't expect anything. But the crowd's different. Maybe everybody in the crowd hasn't seen the last matches. I don't know.
Yeah, I also feel like I'd be leaving something out if I didn't say Daniels didn't come out in this like sweet military get-up and acted all prim and proper for their entrance. That was hilarious.
Yeah,
that was awesome. Because he's the ring general, so he's
right.
the general outfit. It's great.
And speaking of sweet entrances, Jay Lethal and Truth Martini and the entire, House of Truth are out there with them, Donovan Dijak and Jay Diesel. They're out there in these sweet white get-ups. Martini has since shaved since the opening. He's got the new Book of Truth, which has this nice white cover on it. And they're out there looking awesome. Briscoe comes out in this like crazy doomsday preppers gear, whatever, and the mask. And it just works on him. And these guys go at it for gosh darn near 30 minutes. I just feel like it flies by. They have this nice methodical entrance that draws you in, like great main events usually do, and then they sort of turn it up to 11 at the end. We get a Jay Driller through a table. I really felt like the finish was really, really well done. And Jay Lethal comes out of this, your new ROH World Champion, and makes defense number 32 of his television championship all at the same time. And looking like a complete and total badass.
Yeah, this was just, I don't know that it's like one of those, match of the years or whatever, but it gets really darn close. Like,
it's on my list. I'll go that far.
I would say that it's maybe not one of the higher ones or something, but
it's not winning right now, but it's on my list at least,
Oh yeah, because it's not just the match itself; it's the moment that happens afterwards. The way this is where like the build-up is so special because they really haven't had a match like this ever. When Nigel says in that contract signing, like, this is the biggest match in the history, it really feels like that. It feels like this huge match going on. I wish Nigel wasn't out there on commentary, but that's just me, I guess. the whole they take out Diesel and Dijak early so that it's not about them getting involved or whatever. They really make it about the two that are in the ring, and just there's a build up and it builds and builds, and we get into the trading finishers and trading moves, and then the finish was awesome because it's Lethal doing a J Driller, and then he does a lethal injection, and it's like, all right, he won. Everybody's chanting you deserve it, and just an awesome culmination to just everything that Lethal's been through and what he did for the television title and everything. And apparently, at least not right now, he is not vacating the television title. So they're doing the whole, he's going to defend it until he loses one of them or something, which is, I think, even cooler. It matches what Lethal is all about, honestly.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I was kind of curious about that. How are they going to handle that situation, especially with this guy not losing? And it's been a while for him to hold on to that big television title, and now he's got the ROH title. So this is going to be really interesting to see what happens. But man, this was a lot of fun to watch. I think for me, we were talking about match of the year candidates, and for me, I think this is a great match. The end was very climactic. I mean, it was very, very exciting. But the beginning of it was not so thrilling. You get a little bit of a ramp up, which it makes sense. You got to do that. But there were times when I was not sold on it being the best match. And it just took a little bit longer to get to that point. Whereas we've seen some other matches this year where I think from beginning to end, they were just energetic. Even if they weren't flying around the ring, you could feel it. And I wasn't feeling it this entire match, just to be honest.
I can understand where you're coming from, but I think it's one of those where they had all that stuff at the beginning where they removed, House of Truth, and then they removed Truth Martini later, which that was the only reason that Nigel needed to be out there. But, it's just, I felt like it kind of made sense because it's the two, behemoths. They kept, Carino and Kelly kept building it up. These are the two most, they've had the championships the most days out of anybody else in the company. It's two, the head-to-head clashes going on. And normally that doesn't just go full speed or whatever. It's this, what you got there kind of made sense for what it is. But, I know it's not always for everybody.
No, I mean, you make a lot of sense, but I'm just saying, let's just take consideration of, hey, this is the best baseball game I've ever seen, but the problem is I've had 2 rain delays during it. It kind of breaks it up. In your memory, you're kind of like, well, it was good, but man, they had to wait for this to happen and this happened and blah, blah, blah. You have some exceptions to the rule, which you don't want. So I think in general, though, it was a great match. I'm taking away a lot from it, honestly. I shouldn't do that. I think it was a great, great match. It was one of the better matches on the card, and I thoroughly enjoyed this end. The end was amazing. And the way Jay Lethal did it, I think it was perfect. So, with him walking away with those belts, I'm very thrilled, very happy. I think all of us predicted for Jay Lethal to win. It just makes the most sense. It's common sense. But, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with this. I really, really am, now that he's got both titles.
Yeah, I mean, Jay Lethal, the crowd nailed it on the head. Easy enough for me to say. Totally deserves this. He's one of those guys that, has had an on and off relationship with Ring of Honor due to some stints in TNA, but just really a homegrown guy for them. He was their first... ROH was his first major promotion that he worked for way back when he got a start in 2004-ish, I think. So he's been there through a lot. This match itself, I think, might have been one of the best built matches of the year, because by the time that bell rang, there was already this aura around it that just, you're about to see something special. The build was there. The credentials for both guys, Jay hasn't been pinned Briscoe hasn't been pinned in 2 years. Lethal's 430 plus days into his reign as television champion, 30 something defenses, and just it doesn't get any bigger than this. And Ring of Honor did a fantastic job of telling you it does not get any bigger than this. And and I think they just nailed it and hit it out of the ballpark. This entire match, and so I mean, Lethal will defend the belt against Strong at Death Before Dishonor. Ring of Honor television is certainly going to be some interesting stuff to watch in the build-up to that. So I'm excited for what we're about to get with Lethal as the champion.
Yeah, I am too. And once again, what are they going to do with that television title? That is the biggest key for me, because to me, all we've heard from Lethal is this is the ROH title. And now that he actually has the ROH title, how is he going? Is he going to change his tune?
That's what I was saying. That it makes total sense for what it seems like they're going to do, where he's just going to keep defending both titles because now he can call himself the undisputed champion.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, why not just keep doing that, right? I like that idea. And it's more about who's he going to lose it to, or are they eventually is Nigel eventually going to get pissed and make him vacate one of them or something like that? That, I think, is going to be the intrigue. Is he going to keep this going on for so long that Nigel eventually just says, hey, you're going to have to pick one because this is getting ridiculous, or they start stacking the deck against him or whatever. But I think it's an interesting prospect for now. Mm-hmm. Because that's all he's ever cared about, right? Is he wants to make these titles something. So in order to keep doing that, it's to keep defending them and keep having his name on them. Because what did he tell Jay Briscoe? That title made you. I made this title. So now he wants to go make the ROH title too.
Yep. That's right. So, well, I mean, we'll have to see what happens in this storyline. I'm very, very excited about that. And, of course, we will be talking more ROH on our regular show on Thursday night. And if you want to catch on demand, it'll be on Friday. So we'll definitely kind of give you a feedback on what's going to be happening. But you know what? We got to rate this show. We got to kind of give it whatever we thought it deserved. So, Paul, what did you think it deserved?
We talked about Money in the Bank, and I enjoyed last Sunday. I gave that an 8.5. I enjoyed this just as much as I enjoyed Money in the Bank. There's still some of the same gripes. I don't know if that tag team match between War Machine and CNC had a place on this show. There's some other slower part. The first hour is fine from a wrestling perspective, but it's nothing super special. But I'm gonna give it an 8.5. The 6-man and the match of the year candidate as the main event just completely knocked this show out of the park and put it into that territory for me.
I'm gonna use a soccer term here and say that this was certainly a tale of two halves. The last 4 matches certainly make up for the first 4 matches. Not that at least the first match and the rest of them were bad or anything. There was nothing bad on the show. Just, it was kind of, just good. It wasn't anything stand out. Then you get to the last 4 and it's bam, 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 bam. We thought that the tag title match was missing something, but it was still very good. So, I'm gonna go. What did we say? Did we say 8, Gary, or I think you said 7 on Money in the Bank.
No, I think I was more on the 8 range. From what I remember, I really think I was at that.
Okay, so I'm gonna go 8 with this then.
Okay, fair enough. And that's exactly what I was trying to jog my memory. What did I rank it? Did I rank it 8.5? Did I rank it 8? What did I do? I'm gonna guess it was in the 8 range somewhere. But in general, looking at this, I cannot rank this one lower than Money in the Bank. I gave myself some time even to review Money in the Bank, think about it. Did I go too high? Because I always get nervous about going too high. I never want to raise something that I'm going to give a WrestleMania in the future, to be honest with you, because it's very hard for me to get a 10. 9 is a really, really good WrestleMania, and 8's a really, really good pay-per-view, in my opinion. And I thought Money in the Bank was really good, but it had its flaws. I think Best in the World was really good. It had its flaws. But in general, watching this show, it I'll be honest, watching it, I thought to myself, this is why I enjoy watching the kind of indie shows or, just Ring of Honor in general, because it's entertaining. They tell great stories and they do a good job overall. And there's a reason I love watching. I'm glad I'm not back to that frame of just watching WWE production. I'm getting a chance to watch other great talent work and perform. And so I'm going to give this an 8. I think it deserved everything Money in the Bank deserved for sure. So that's the way I'm going to go personally. Well, that is our review of Best in the World 2015 for the Ring of Honor pay-per-view. But we are going to move on and do one thing for you guys before we go ahead and leave. We are going to sit down here and we are going to talk some Bret Hart. Bret Hart just recently did an interview in Sports Illustrated, and it came out with several different things and some personal opinions of his that I think we want to talk about here. And really, the lead dog in this and the lead comment that he made was about Daniel Bryan. And he honestly said that he doesn't think Daniel Bryan is ever going to wrestle again. He equates his injury to the injury he had when Goldberg kicked him in the head, and of course that caused issues later on. And of course, he blames his stroke on that kick. So, looking at this, I want to know from you guys what you think about what he said. Do you kind of feel like he has a point here? Do you think this is anything like his injury? And just overall, how do you feel about his comments?
I don't know if Samoa Joe's muscle buster is to blame for Tyson Kidd's injury. I'm sure it didn't help things, obviously, but I've read several places that it wasn't to blame, that it wasn't a neck injury. It's something in Tyson's spinal cord, which is so much more awful, but that's, that is a thing. If Bret thinks it's dangerous, then, that's his opinion, obviously, but Joe's been doing it for good lord, years and years and years. It was his finisher before he started doing the Coquina Clutch. So, I don't know how much I buy that. I might be able to buy that Daniel Bryan is done. Neck injuries, as we're going to learn with Tyson Kidd, can do a large number on you. And if Daniel Bryan doesn't feel that he has it anymore, I mean, I'm sure he's going to want to wrestle, but I'm sure if doctors feel like he's going to put his life in danger by stepping in the ring, then I'm sure he won't do that. But, I could buy that Daniel Bryan is done, just with how tricky neck injuries could be.
Okay, fair enough. Sean?
The thing is, too, I mean, it's not like Bret and Bryan are strangers to each other. They could be They could have been talking. It's not so far-fetched that obviously Bret and Tyson Kidd are family, so I'm sure they talked, and Tyson Kidd might have given his feelings on the situation, and maybe Bret's speaking on his own accord. Maybe it has nothing to do with what Tyson Kidd said or whatever. We don't know what Tyson Kidd is saying to him privately, and maybe Bret feels like, well, Tyson's not going to say that publicly, so I can come say it. Whatever. We really don't know on that end. I still don't think... I think if WWE thought that Samoa Joe's Muscle Buster was partial to blame, Samoa Joe wouldn't be doing the Muscle Buster right now on house show circuit. So, that's one thing to note. Samoa Joe's still doing the moves, so they don't consider it a problem. This also could just be a situation like AJ Styles Clash. Like, one guy got injured and they feel like that move is important, so they're not going to just take it away from him. It's not like it's injuring everyone, and it might have just been the way that Tyson Kidd took it that night, or it could have been something else. Could have not been the Muscle Buster or whatever. But as far as Daniel Bryan goes, the thing with Daniel Bryan is that we don't know, and like Bret says, he doesn't know if Daniel knows what's going on with him. This also has to do with, we know Daniel Bryan doesn't really like going under the surgical knife. So if he's going to keep avoiding that, then he might make it to where he takes so long to avoid that to where there's nothing he can do, and he is done. I don't know. I hope he's not. I hope he is able to come back and whatever, but it just feels like the longer that he's away, the more likely it is that it could be true. As sad as that is. And like I think we've talked about before, it may not be the worst thing in the world for Daniel Bryan to pull a Shawn Michaels and be gone for a few years. And really be able to know if he feels good and can make a run or something.
Yeah, that's the truth. And you know what? Sometimes, getting that extra time to heal, to really get your body back into the mode of, being in shape, and of course having time to really just get itself back in order, because we all know the wrestling schedule takes a toll on these guys. These guys put their bodies on the line all the time. They're always banged up. They're always injured. I guarantee you every WB superstar is injured right now. I guarantee you they have every, guy in Ring of Honor, TNA. They've got bumps. They've got bruises. They've got, broken fingers, toe issues, all sorts of things that we don't know about. This is very common in sports. Baseball, basketball, football. Guys play injured all the time. Same goes for wrestlers. They just make it through it. They do their job. And so looking at that, and taking into consideration the Daniel Bryan situation where he's had to go through so much pain, he's had to go through this whole situation with himself of, what can I do without getting surgery? How can I heal myself? How can I work through it? And I know for a fact that he's trying his best to get through it, the way he wants to get through it. And I think Bret Hart makes a good point of, that he could be done. I don't really buy into the fact that he says he is done. I never want to put that on somebody and just put a nail in that coffin. I don't want to do that. I want to give the guy an opportunity. Now, if we're talking in 2 years about the same subject, I would almost say, sure, yeah, he's done. He hasn't been back in 2 years, but I think I got to give the guy an extra year. It's kind of a hard thing. And Bret, of course, in this article does say he hopes that Daniel Bryan does get the opportunity to wrestle again. So it's not like he's hating on Daniel Bryan or saying anything bad about him. Now, whereas he is hating on Samoa Joe and is calling out the Muscle Buster as being reckless and dangerous. And I just have a hard time buying into that as well, only because the Muscle Buster has been used for a long time, kind of like Paul said. It's been around, trust me. If it was really hurting people, Samoa Joe would have quit that a long time ago before he even got to the WWE. So I'm sure even TNA would have stopped him, even if he was not wanting to stop him. They would have stopped him. They didn't want their wrestlers injured either. So Tyson Kidd, freak injury. I know Bret probably has a lot more at stake because that's his family, but he needs to remember that it happens, and he needs to put himself back in their shoes. So. Something else he talked about, though, in this article, it had to do with John Cena. And, John Cena is the face of WWE. He's the guy that when you think wrestling...
For context to this, he really put over Cody Rhodes and says that Cody Rhodes knows how to make punches look really real. Mm-hmm. And he hates it when guys don't do that. And he's like, well, you never hear Cody Rhodes in the ring calling spots.
Yeah.
And I think it's really unprofessional that guys call spots in the ring. And who's the guy that we know that does that?
John Cena, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he does call out John Cena for that. And, who's to say, that, Bret, pays attention to everything. I've heard from Bret talk on podcasts and things that he doesn't always watch the show often. He's not always in the game, but it is obvious to us. It's obvious to a lot of other people that John Cena is doing this. He is calling a lot in the ring, and it's very obvious, very audible. But you know what? Sean just said it. He makes a good point about guys like Cody Rhodes. And there's other guys in this company that are just like Cody Rhodes who do a good job of, performing their job without letting everybody else in the audience know and break that fourth wall. So, what overall do you think about this?
I should note that I forgot to mention this during the thing. Apparently, Bret kind of puts a little bit of blame on whoever was supposed to be the agent for the match or whatever with Tyson Kidd and Joe. He says that Tyson Kidd may not have been given enough time to prepare, and they kind of rushed the match. So, I don't know. He also says he doesn't know who to blame, but I'm just saying he's sort of blaming. Seems like everybody he can. I don't know.
It's silly. It's a freak accident. These kind of things are going to happen.
But it's possible that maybe they just told him to go out there and maybe they didn't have a lot of time to talk about Joe doing this move or Tyson doing that move, or
Okay, well, I don't know. Maybe you need to have a history with these guys. I just have heard so many times from old wrestlers talk about the fact they don't need to talk it out. They don't need to work it out. They need to go to the ring and they need to perform. I hear Roddy Piper talking about it all the time. I hear Stone Cold Steve Austin talk about it all the time. I don't do that kind of stuff. Just meet me in the ring.
It's a different thing. Like, he compares it to Stone Cold, where Owen did the tombstone wrong, and that was totally on Owen.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing a move for the first time that's sort of dangerous, you kind of do need to tell them how to take it or whatever. Maybe Tyson Kidd's never taken the muscle buster or whatever. But again, I don't know that Tyson Kidd would have said it, but there would be somebody inside WWE. There would have been a report already that Joe has some kind of heat or, something. There would have been something negative. And we haven't heard that. So, and I can't imagine that it's like, well, they paid Joe all this money. They don't want to have anything negative towards Joe. Like, I know Tyson Kidd isn't like the highest on the totem pole, but I don't know. It could be a myriad of things, but.
Mm-hmm. Paul, do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, anything could be possible. And I don't imagine this is their first time, because they were both on the Indies around the same time as each other too. So it's very possible that they've met before. And I'm fairly confident Tyson Kidd has probably taken a muscle buster or two in his career. So I don't know if it's just that. I mean, I think you nailed it, Gary. It's a freak accident. If you want to blame Joe, that's their right, I guess, if they want to. Whether it's true or not, I very seriously doubt it.
Yeah, let me be honest too on this, and I respect the heck out of Bret Hart, one of the best to ever perform in the ring, and just overall great wrestler. But he loves the blame game. It's one of his favorite games to play. If it's happened, he's got to blame somebody.
Look at Goldberg. How many times he flip-flops on the
Oh, my God. It's tiresome. And I'm almost tired of hearing him mention the name Goldberg. Not because I'm just a giant Goldberg fan or anything, but it's the fact that he just keeps telling it back. And then he's like, oh, well, he apologized, and I told him it's okay. But that guy ruined my life. He lost me millions of dollars. But I told him it was fine. But he screwed me over. It just, come on. But anyway, I think this is kind of where we're coming on that. But I kind of think, when he's talking about John Cena, he has kind of a point here. For being the number one guy, the face of the company, it's kind of funny that, the leader of the WWE roster is the one kind of calling out audible spots.
I mean, it's pretty funny. Even if you don't know that's, what he's doing, it's pretty obvious that he is what he's doing. It's one of, like, if you watch any recent WrestleCrap videos too, or Botchamanias, excuse me, they very frequently use him calling spots, and it's so audible, it's almost, I don't want to say disgusting, but geez, I mean, try to hide it a little,
Yeah. That's something you're not really supposed to do. I mean, granted, there's a big enough crowd there that you shouldn't be able to hear it either, but he must be yelling so loud. I don't know if it's maybe back in the day because they didn't have all these microphones everywhere, but you don't hear anybody else either. So there's just got to be something with John Cena, like, maybe he doesn't do whispering. I don't know. I mean, when I was wrestling, they just said it in my ear while we're doing the headlock or whatever, or just in the corner or somewhere where you don't just go, hey, whatever, we're gonna do this, go home, whatever. I don't know, John Cena. Just you would think somebody would tell him, just, hey, turn it down a notch or something. Just learn to use the quiet voice. I don't know. It's just
Yeah. No, I understand, and it's just kind of funny. Once again, this is the guy that leads the roster, sets the example, but yet he's doing this. But it's an honest mistake, I'm sure.
You can forgive it when he has good matches with everybody and is having matches that are clearly not in his style with Kevin Owens, and he's still going out there and delivering. So
definitely, I can't hate on that at all. That's exactly what we want, exactly what we need from John Cena. So. Something else, though, that he touches on in this article is about promos. He says that the promos today basically suck. He doesn't like them. He doesn't like the way the guys perform them. And I'm just kind of curious. I mean, you guys have seen a lot of the old promos and the old promo cutters. And,
I mean, this kind of seems to be a theme right now, isn't it? Like every old guy just says the same. There's got to be something to this, right? Like, Stone Cold says this, and Paul Heyman says it, and, I'm sure if, Dusty probably had his thoughts on it, That's why we know in NXT they did things so differently, or somewhat differently. But I think, wasn't it Vince, or was it Triple H that said it just depends on the guy? So, there's also the whole Bret talks about he thinks the faces don't sell anymore, which that's why it was so weird that John Cena wasn't on Raw, because normally Cena would have been back the next day. But then Dean Ambrose was selling the leg, but there was times where he forgot to sell the leg and was running around. So
yeah, it's the truth though. I mean, really, you've got to give him credit for it. It is very much the truth, and I think in both instances, where the selling has become a lot different these days, especially since not so much at WB to an extent, yes, WB, and not as much as what we get in TNA, maybe Ring of Honor more, and all these other indie promotions where you get a lot of quick matches, back and forth. Guy gets knocked down, gets back up, and gets right back on the horse. Whereas in back in the day, you sold that you got kicked in the head. You didn't just roll over, take a second, get up. You took 5, 10, even 15 seconds because your head's in pain. So I think that's very interesting. I listen to Roddy Piper's podcast all the time, and he constantly talks about this kind of stuff. So it's really interesting to me to find out that Bret Hart's even kind of considering this as being kind of a lack. And not only that, the promos now are more scripted, especially WWE. They're all scripted. It's hard for someone to feel something they're reading. It's not their emotions, it's some writer's emotions. Whereas back in the day, Stone Cold Steve Austin can make those his emotions, not, go off of what Vince Russo wrote. It's about him. It's about who he feels he is.
When it comes to wrestling matches, wrestling is so different from when we were a lot younger, when we were kids, or even when we were growing up in the Attitude Era, or even, I would say, almost 10 years ago. It's so much faster paced now because I think wrestler body types in general have changed. It's not 80% big lumbering guys and you have these tiny guys thrown in here and there. Now, people are starting, wrestlers at least, I don't know about just people in general, but they're starting to get, smaller and, thinner and all this other things. And it just makes for faster paced wrestling now. And people sort of change their, especially indie fans. Indie fans expect super fast paced matches now. And when you get the sort of like what we got in the main event for the show we just talked about, Best in the World, it's almost like a revelation. Like it's so fresh and new because you have this methodical, well-paced, slowed-out match as opposed to the Firestorm that we got in the Six Man, which is what I would consider a very typical indie-style match. And even in the WWE, I think wrestling's gotten a lot more fast-paced. When it comes to promos, though, I don't think people consider character motivation anymore. You have a couple of guys, like Dean Ambrose, I think very much delivers character-based promos. I think Seth Rollins does a very good job of delivering character-based promos. There are a lot of other guys, though, in a lot of different companies who I just don't feel like grasp the idea of a character-based promo, like you're supposed to be doing this or that, or these other things. It just doesn't feel like it's coming from their character. It feels like it's just coming from them. And I feel like that has a lot to do with what WWE's trying to do, where they're not competing with wrestling, they're competing with television programs, and people want more reality-based things, and sort of darker and grittier stuff, and just more realism in television. And I feel like that's what WWE has been trying to do, especially with promos, where you're trying to feel like you're delivering a piece of who you really are instead of the character that you are.
Yeah, I can understand that too, and that's why when we talk about like Bray Wyatt, why he is so like in his own thing, because he is just a total character, right? Like no one talks like that except for Bray Wyatt, like and he says so much like stuff that goes over your head that you're just going, not for us, but for like the person sitting in the crowd, they're like, what? Like what did he just say? Like about his sister and this whatever, and my inspiration, and wanting to be the revolution and the face of fear and all this whatever, and just for every character person, for every person that really tells you something about who their character is, you have 30 guys that are just, well, I did this and I'm mad because of this, and it's not even about the character. It's the way you deliver something. When there's got like, okay, Dolph Ziggler's not that great of a promo, honestly, but when he really when he can tell you something that you really feel like, okay, this is what's going on with him, like I feel this from this guy, okay, then I believe it and I want to get into that and whatever. But there's a lot of times where most of the time somebody says something, it's just like, okay, just, all right, you said it, let's move on to the next thing. Same thing with like, okay, Roman Reigns is fitting into himself more now. Why? Because he just says, okay, I'm gonna kick your ass. That's it. He doesn't need to say 20 lines of junk. Why? Because Roman Reigns isn't the guy that sits there. Maybe he does that with his daughter, but I don't think anybody else, he's going to go around going, yep, I'm just, I did this and this and this and this today, and then I sung a nursery rhyme, and it's like, no, that's just not when you think of something like that, that's not what you think about, right? Like, there's even like, it's just what's so dumb is like WWE has archetypes of characters. And not even then do those characters fit that archetype, because they're not even that. I don't even know what they are. It's just weird. To go on Paul's wrestling thing, it's not only that. I think that we have so many things to distract us now. Like, if they went and sold something for 10 minutes like they used to back in the day, people would be going, well, here's my phone. I'll wait for him to get up now. And I wait for him to, like, roll around for 10 minutes. And, it's just like, there's too many distractions. Back in the 80s, we didn't have our phones to go around. Let me click around and take a photo and go on Facebook. And you didn't have games that you took with you. You didn't have camera. You had cameras, but they were like, the frickin' Polaroids and whatever that, it's not the same. You're entertained by more things than just the match that's going on in front of you. So you have to find something. If it's not the story you're telling, it's the match that's going on, the pace that it's going on at, or whatever. Why do people say they get bored by these big lumbering matches that don't do anything? Because you get easily distracted. Like, I know we've all done it, right? Like, okay, Big Show and Ryback are in a match. Okay, well, not how this is going to go. I'm just going to go do something else. And in 10 minutes, Sheamus, Randy Orton, it's so weird. Like, and then, that's why I appreciate, like, Kevin Owens and John Cena, because they're not wrestling WWE style matches, We don't. Now it's weird because Owens will put somebody in a headlock for like 10 minutes on NXT, but at least with Cena, he hasn't been doing that. They've been just going at it, and there's stuff happening, and it's constantly you want to pay attention, so there's something to be said for that, and the way that you have to do wrestling now, and this is what's so, like, Bret even goes into it where he thinks that there's not going to be a smaller guy that's going to be in the main event for WWE for a long time. It's like, well, I don't know about that, because the ratio of big guys to smaller guys in WWE, it's really small now.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you getting at that just because Brock Lesnar was champion for a while last year that we're not going to get smaller guys in the main event? Because we have more guys like Seth Rollins than we do guys like Roman Reigns right now. That must be with the point where he doesn't pay attention to everything. I don't know.
Yeah, you make some great points, Sean, and just looking at this whole scenario and even just the promo thing in general, I want to say this. We just got through the whole tribute and talking about Dusty Rhodes, one of the greatest promo cutters, if not the best. And that guy was that guy. He just wasn't it to the nth degree. He raised it up to 11 when he was just that guy, maybe at 8 or 9. So, I mean, it's not about being a character. It's about being yourself, just elevated to a different degree, more extravagant, more, excited, and just, really showcase your feelings. So I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong these days. We've been saying it over and over again. I just feel like, script has a lot to do with that and the way they do their product when it comes to getting this show together. I don't think it always succeeds. So, but did you guys have anything else? I'm not sure how much of this article you guys read. Did you guys have any other topics you wanted to talk about before we move out of this?
I don't, because he talks about tag team wrestling on there, but I feel like that's kind of something we've talked about already, and
we bag on tag team wrestling weekly.
Well, and it's also
Yeah.
it seems like they sort of. I mean, his whole thing of there should be there is a tag team match every show. It doesn't always mean something, but there's a tag team match every show, and they are sort of trying to do something with the tag division right now. So, and it's not their fault that 2 of their big teams are on the injury list right now. So. They're doing what they can with it. I am a little bit worried. Are you guys worried about maybe something's going to be happening with the New Day in a negative way? Or do you think that primetime players having the belts right now doesn't mean anything in that way?
I have my concerns about the New Day. I'm hoping the scenario that I'm looking at is maybe they didn't want New Day to be the team that lost to the next tag team champions. And I'm talking primetime players. I'm talking about whoever primetime players lose to. Maybe they're going to keep the New Day strong and not have them lose. And it doesn't make sense almost because the primetime players beat them. But on the other hand, I think that maybe they have a different way of going at this. We have a different heel team maybe. So.
I don't know. I really like the New Day as they are right now, but when you look at what's been happening in the news recently and just I don't know how you could. I mean, it's not like they're a racial stereotype as much as they were when they first started. It's very much now they're sort of a parody almost of what they were and using that to get heel heat, which is working perfectly. But when you have something as tragic as what has happened in the news recently, I don't know how comfortable they're going to feel sending them out there doing that every week. So it very well could, as we think that we got the New Day because of what happened, at the end of last year instead of the New Nation. So it's very possible it could affect them negatively.
I hope not, though. They're so good, and they're only going to get better. And you just got Xavier Woods playing Rock Band on his gaming channel and stuff. I want to see more of what the New Day can do, not necessarily less. And I just worry, that they were so good as champions, that they were helping the titles mean something. You paid attention to them. That means you paid attention to the tag team champions. Not that you don't do that with the primetime players, but I feel like you know, who's gonna want to see them chase anything? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So I just worry about what this means. I hope it's not anything negative. And I should know too that apparently Ricochet is back in Dragon Gate, so that's cool.
Yeah.
There's been talk about him wanting to get his Japanese visa again, so I don't know if that means anything for Lucha Underground, but
Oh. You're making me concerned more about New Day. Now I'm concerned about Ricochet. I love him. I love watching him in Lucha Underground. So, but you know what? Lucha Underground's a program that could move on. And
I'm worried though, because it's getting every week that goes by, you don't hear anything.
Mm-hmm. I know, and we were feeling like they were pretty much picked up for that second season. I don't know.
I mean, they could. I guess Univision could make them wait till that last week or whatever. Who knows?
Yep.
It could all be those TV deals, and that's what it is. They're just trying so hard with those 2 TV deals that they don't want to announce anything until they know for sure one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. I'm really concerned about that though, because I want them to be back. I love Lucha Underground. I don't want anything bad to happen to their promotion. So, well, we will see. Well, guys, that pretty much covers our big news topic of this week, and we actually covered a little bit more than I expected, but that's great. A lot of good talk. And of course, if you want to hear more of this kind of stuff, we will be back on Thursday night talking about this. Some of the stuff maybe we'll retouch on briefly, but probably not a whole lot. We're going to have some other big news topics. And of course, once again, you can catch us on demand on Friday. But, before we head out of here, guys, I have to ask this. Did you guys get a chance to check out Ken Shamrock and Bellator against Kimbo Slice?
I did not.
Oh, man. Sean, did you get a chance to watch it?
I heard the results. I didn't watch it.
Oh, man, that was a hard-tugging thing. Guys, since we haven't watched TNA on, of course, the Spike Network, really haven't paid attention to Spike. Just not my cup of tea usually. I love cops, but not really my cup of tea. But, man, they had my attention, and I actually did get a chance to watch that fight. Before that, Bobby Lashley won. Congratulations to him. He won his Bellator fight. But, it just shows you once again how Ken Shamrock has faded away, and maybe it's time for him to hang up those boots because, wow, he had a chance to get Kimbo in a rear chin lock, and we thought Kimbo was going to be out for the count. But, of course, Kimbo finds a way to get up, counter it, and then one punch out, it's over. Kimbo Slice won. And so just want to say to all you wrestling fans, join me on the petition for Ken Shamrock to retire from everything and just go enjoy his time in the Hall of Fame. That's in WWE's Hall of Fame, I'm hoping.
I heard some people saying they thought that was fake.
It probably is fake, but I'm hoping he eventually gets it.
No, I'm talking about him losing the way he did.
You know what? You know what's funny, Sean? And I hadn't heard that. So you bringing that up allows me to open the door to my own thoughts of...
Because it looked like he had him in that choke,
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden Kimbo gets out of it, punches him, and then it's like, okay, he's down. Now I get it, Shamrock's 50 and whatever, but
It's
I don't know.
Very professional wrestling, to be honest with you. Because, man, they cut some great promos. If you watch the promos that they cut with each other, very intense. You got up for it. You were excited about it. Kimbo Slice even went on JR's podcast to cut another promo on there. So that's why I was wondering, maybe there's a little bit more pro wrestling in this MMA fight than I would have ever thought. But theory, I don't know. So we'll see. We'll probably find out more.
What do you think, Paul's work?
I couldn't really care, to be honest with you.
He's like, why are we talking MMA here? I just had to bring it up. Ken Shamrock was one of my favorites back in the Attitude Era. That's why I'm bringing this up. And you know what? What it is, what it is. If it happens to be a work, wow, that kind of hurts Bellator for sure. I think personally, I hope that's not the case because that will kill them. I think personally. So, all right, well, guys, we are going to get out of here. But before we do, Sean, I would like you to plug a few things for us.
Yeah. If this is the first time you're listening to the show, we are available on. We do have a normal show where we review all the TV shows that happen during the week for ROH and TNA and Lucha Underground and Raw and am I missing one? To NXT, and we do specials like these for the pay-per-views. Normally for WWE and New Japan because they have one every month. But when ROH has one, we try to do that. TNA's is so lame duck. We're just gonna do it next week on a Thursday show because, they dug their own grave on that one. So hopefully you're checking us out, subscribing and reviewing and rating on iTunes and Stitcher. I've heard some people have been doing that, so I appreciate it. You can go join our Facebook group, the W2M Facebook group. There's a lot of people in there. We're not always talking about everything that's going on. See, we're just playing around, posting some memes, or just, we did have a thread for that Bellator fight, and there was some people that seemed to be very interested in it, just to say that they called what happened or didn't or whatever. It's quite a vibrant bunch in there. There's other podcasts to listen to as well. Our friends over there on the VOC Nation, which we're a part of. Raw Reaction with Harry and Tony and Jimmy. Harry's not going to be around this week, so Graham Cluck, who's been on the show before, is going to be, he won the contest, so he's going to be filling in over there. And you got Greg DeMarco on Wednesdays, and you got the Steven Randall, TWNE After Dark, and I was on with Harry, reviewing Wrestle Kingdom 9 on Wrestling Unwrapped, so you can check that out over there on the VOC too. And, just, keep listening, keep supporting. Thank you very much on that one.
For sure, guys. So, we got a lot of cool stuff happening, like Sean said, in this next Thursday night live. So if you want to listen to us live and you want to call in, you want to message us on the chat, or, of course, if you just want to send us an email, hey, hit us up. We want to hear from you guys. Of course, like Sean said, join that Facebook group. We appreciate everybody listening to us tonight. It has been a fun time, but we are going to move on and get out of here. So I just want you guys to remember, if you're not living life to the max,
not living life at all.
You know it.
Please.
Later.